I think as a photographer, you're constantly looking for subjects to photograph. And I think you need a go-to spot, somewhere that you can go and you know you're going to get a picture. You can test cameras, you can test lenses, you can test film. It's a go-to spot. Now, I think my go-to spot is haunted. It wasn't always that way, but I think maybe like Gozar from Ghostbusters is now at my go-to spot. Let me explain. My name is Rob Skeoch. I'm a career photographer. I shot for decades on film and I shot for decades with digital. And now I've kind of gone back to shooting with film. And I'm having the most fun of my entire photo career. Just doing the assignments that I want, doing the pictures that I want to do, and just having fun. Back in the darkroom, shooting film, great little cameras. I've got a couple of different cameras that I use. It's just a lot of fun. Now, let me tell you about the spot that I like to go to. If you're driving through Peterborough on the way to Ottawa, Highway 7, there's an old barn there that has a bunch of, it used to have hubcaps all over it, and now it's got like weird signs and stuff like that. So sometimes I stop in there. First off, I always know it's there, and I stop in there and I just take some photos to maybe test out a lens, test out some camera stuff. And I was testing out this lens. This is a 25mm Zeiss lens on the Leica M-mount, testing this out, and I'll tell you, it was a strange place. I was there by myself. The place wasn't open. I'm taking some photos with this. It's not windy, but there's a pounding on the door. Like, I mean, if you would have told me there's a bull on the other side of that door trying to get out, I would have believed it. I mean, it's probably the guy from Ghostbusters. What was his name? Gozar the Gozorian or something like that. He was probably in that barn. But anyways, so it was strange, but that's not the strangest part. I had parked my car kind of where I was shooting, and I left the trunk open, and I look at my car, and my camera bag falls out of the car. Now, in this camera bag, it's a padded bag, is one of my great film cameras, and it falls on the ground inside the bag, and it has catastrophic damage. I mean, it's just like destroyed. Anyways, I thought, this is this mutant, I don't know, Zool or whoever the haunted people are from the other part of the world or the underworld or the old world or somewhere else. I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty sure the place is haunted. I ruined my camera. Took, 8 months to get fixed. These film cameras are hard to get fixed because no one's got parts. There is no parts. The guy's building parts. It's expensive, and, I couldn't believe it. Anyways, you need to find a spot where you can go and take photos and test stuff out. Just don't pick a haunted one like the spot that I used to go to. Not going anymore. It's too expensive. Now, let's go back to this lens for a second. This is the Zeiss 25 2.8. I've had it for years. 2.8 for the Leica M-mount. Now, the Leica M, this is an M6TTL. It has an 85 viewfinder, so it doesn't have the viewfinder lines for the 28, and it definitely doesn't have them for the 25. None of them do. So you have to use this little overpriced, inconvenient viewfinder on top, as you can kind of see there. So it does make the camera look kind of cool. It's inconvenient to use because you're focusing through the regular viewfinder. Now, with the 85 viewfinder on a 25, you have very great, very exact critical focus. So you're focusing through the viewfinder, you're metering through the viewfinder, and then you're moving your eye up to this auxiliary viewfinder to compose your picture. And like all of the viewfinders and all of the viewfinder lines, it's somewhat accurate, but it's not perfect. So it is a little bit inconvenient to use with the viewfinder. There's lots of Leicas have the viewfinder idea for different lenses, so people are used to it. But if you're an SLR guy, you just won't understand it. Like, wait a minute, I'm focusing through one viewfinder and metering through that viewfinder, and then I'm composing through another one. Okay, that's pretty strange. Hard to compete with an SLR if you're going to do that kind of thing. Now, one of the things I love about this lens is how sharp it is. So when Zeiss was building these lenses originally, they're still a current lens, it's still available. But when Zeiss was building them, this was the sharpest lens they had made at that time. So Zeiss has been in business a long time, but this lens is outstandingly sharp. Now, there's more to photography than sharp. You know, how does it render? How does it draw? People use terms like that. What's the bokeh? All those things are kind of like words that photographers use when they want to sound like they know what they're talking about. I don't care about any of that. I don't really care about the sharpness either. It's sharp enough. The bokeh is fine enough. It's just a great length. It's a great length. It's a great lens. You should pick one up. Now, when I'm at this place testing my lens, I got a few different shots. So let me just kind of show you what it is that I was able to get. This first shot is the wide shot. Now, if you're driving down outside of Peterborough on the way to Ottawa, you'll see this barn on the right-hand side. And this is kind of the main look of the barn. It's a big place, but it's just packed with signs and license plates and stuff like that. It used to have hubcaps, but I guess they don't sell. But these things, maybe he sells them. I don't know. I've never actually been there when it was open. So you get an idea, though, and with the 25mm lens, you definitely get a lot in. Now, this lens is pretty good for keeping straight lines straight, as long as you haven't tilted the camera. People talk about distortion. So there's many types of distortion. One type of distortion is that it curves straight lines. This lens is very good at keeping those straight lines straight. But the other kind of distortion, of course, is the image size. So it's a 25mm lens. So it distorts reality. If your item is closer to the lens, it looks larger. So it's distorting the perspective and it's distorting the reality. But when people talk about, distortion, they're usually talking about, can it keep the straight line straight? But it definitely distorts in the sense that, items closer to the lens appear bigger. If you sat there with your hands folded or your fists clutched, they would look bigger than your head, right? If you extended them towards the lens. Anyways, wonderful lens, super sharp. Now, you don't have to use it at 2.8, but if you stop down a couple of stops, it is just magnificently sharp. There's no reason that you would think, oh, I need a sharper lens than this. Now, Leica doesn't make a 25. They did for years make a 24. I don't think they do anymore. It wasn't really popular. Maybe it was. I never met anyone who had a Leica 24. I know a lot of people with this 25. Now, the Zeiss 25 would be, a quarter of the price of the Leica 24. So put that in mind too. But I don't think you need anything sharper than this. This is fantastic. This is a fantastic little lens. Now, the second photo, I've just moved up a little bit closer. It's not a detail shot of the same frame. This is actually a different photograph. And I burned it a little bit on the edges so that you've got that sort of a hot spot in the middle, which is done in the darkroom. It's not how the lens renders. But great sharpness, great detail, great ability to kind of capture all that information. Now, is it good on digital? I don't know. I don't think I've ever used it on digital. I don't have a digital Leica anymore, so I don't know if I've ever used it on digital, but it's definitely amazing on film. No, sometimes the lenses are great on film and suck at digital because the back element is too close to the sensor. I do not know if that's the case with this lens. Maybe someone can chirp in and say, hey, it's great on film and it's not that great on digital. Now, just while we're talking about that, there was a lens that Zeiss made. They made two 21s. They made a 21 2.8, which I had for a while. 21's not a length I use, so I had that 21. But I also had used the 21C compact. The C stands for compact, and it was a 4.5. And it was awesome on film and rubbish on digital. Now, the whole world has gone digital, so then, why would you even make a lens that was just for especially have a weird focal length like 21? Why would you make a 21 that was just for film cameras? You just can't justify keeping it in the lineup. So I think they dropped it a few years ago. But it was super sharp. Now, this final picture again, just a different spot along this same barn on the outside that you can photograph. A little bit more three-dimensional quality to it because it's got that pump and not everything is on the flat wall. But again, wonderful rendering, great sharpness, great detail, great shadow detail. I love the tones. If you get a chance to try the Zeiss 25 2.8, it's not super fast, but it's okay fast. If you get a chance to try it on your Leica, on your Voigtlander, what else could you be using it on? A Zeiss Icon, whatever M-mount camera that you have, you're going to need the little viewfinder, but it is just a pleasure to use, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So I really enjoy it. I use this lens a fair bit. It would be one lens I would take with me if I was taking, say, 3 lenses. Wonderful product. You need the viewfinder, and I leave the viewfinder on the camera for the most part. Even if I'm using a different lens, I just leave the viewfinder there. It doesn't fit in my bag properly with the viewfinder on it, so I just keep it on the camera, keep it around my neck, even when I'm using different lenses. It's just more convenient when you do end up wanting to shoot with the 25. So there you have it, the Zeiss 25 in the M-mount. You know, find a spot that you can go to and go back and, you know, just somewhere local that you can test lenses, test film, test cameras, take your time and enjoy every moment of it. And hopefully you find a place that isn't haunted. I think my place is haunted. I'm not going back. I can't afford the camera repairs if I go back there. So I got to find a new place. I'll be looking for some roots or rocks or some barn in the country that's fallen down with the sun on it. I don't know what, but I'm not going back there. Have a great day. Just saying.